Lots of people in the community find Abby's part of the game to their liking. I'm not one of them. I could have been, if Naughty Dog had run both stories side by side, switching more frequently from the beginning. But they didn't, and by the time they reach the point where they have to drive their moral choices at me like a semi-truck about to roll over my skull, it's too late. And I say to hell with them. The idea that Abby would want to track down her father's killer and kill him is not the issue as I see it. Even murderers in our own time are often executed. But in most civilized societies, the execution has become as humane as possible. Something very often the murderers do not grant their victims. And in Abby's case, her execution of Joel should not have been allowed by any decent human being that even agreed with her to hunt him down and kill him. A simple, quick shot to the head should have been the only option agreed to by the Salt Lake crew. And don't forget, the stupid doctor could possibly have avoided his own death had he not grabbed a scalpel and threatened to use it against Joel when the rescue of Ellie was at that point. But his grandiose notions of saving the world drove him to think and behave like the idiot he was. And he paid the price for it.
This is what I want to say to all those who justify Abby and say to look at the world through her eyes. She not only sought revenge, she carried it out in the most terrible form. She tortured the man who had just rescued her, not only killed and avenged her father, but enjoyed the torture, suffering, and pain. Slaughtered father in front of daughter in the most disgusting way. This is the act of a sadist and a maniac, a person who has completely lost his humanity. And after that, they try to tell us that this maniac loves dogs, saves zebras, and in general, a cutie. Despite the fact that at least some remorse for the deed is completely absent, there is only a small talk about a lost dream. It is not enough for redemption. What this sadist has done before is not so easy to forgive. Joel and Ellie, at least the ones we got to know from first part, would never have done that. Joel in the first part committed controversial acts, but always out of motives to save someone, never out of a sadistic desire to get satisfaction from torture. Ellie, before her character was destroyed in the second part, was a ray of light in this dark world, a person who gives hope for the best in the most difficult hour. For this, they were loved. The heroes of the second part, apart from the first, are not loved by anyone. They are disgusting in their actions or just empty inside. I just don't want to see the world through the eyes of a sadist and look for excuses to get the satisfaction of torture.
I hated being forced to play as Abby. I pushed through it just to get to the ending. I agree with you about being forced to learn a lesson from Naughty Dog, which isn't what I wanted from a sequel to The Last of Us. Too many people who defend this game defend it from Abby's perspective, as if she is why people wanted to play a Last of Us sequel. If I'd read the leaks ahead of time, I wouldn't have bothered, because it's the height of either cruelty or hubris to force someone who loved the first game to play for 10 hours or more as the bad guy. Just because there's two sides to every story doesn't mean I have to care about them both. I came to this game for more Ellie and Joel, but Naughty Dog thought it was better to destroy the player's bond with them to make an unsatisfying revenge story. The moment when Abby says, "We let you both live, and you wasted it," was the moment I almost quit the game.
That was all. Who even told you could sit with us? Good luck going forward. I have a feeling you're going to have some people in the comments telling you you're supposed to feel bad playing this game, as if misery is a stroke of artistic genius. Oh boy.
I honest to God wish that I had seen the spoilers before I purchased this game. I dismiss the outrage over the leaks to be a dismissal of diverse characters and problematic prejudiced personal views of LGBT people, but that was such a narrow thing. As a member of the LGBT community, I have no problem with the way these things are portrayed in TLOU2, as they are done so in a realistic way. My problem with this game is that it is a narrative disaster. I genuinely want a refund. I am outraged by the lies in the marketing, and I am outraged at the disrespect of the audience and insulting insinuation that this is a sequel worthy of the original game. While mechanically the game is fine and graphically is a masterpiece with incredible animations, the story ruins everything I love about the first game. Ellie is ruined. Joel is ruined. There is no redeeming quality to any of the characters. They're all truly horrible people. Except, maybe for Dina. Despite the game taking an enormous amount of time trying to convince me that Abby wasn't a terrible person, it failed miserably. I don't care about Abby, and I never cared to play as her. Nor did I care to learn about her story. Again, I'm not so ignorant to not understand what Naughty Dog was attempting to do. They wanted to subvert expectations and deliver a narrative that blurred the lines between the protagonist and the villain, the good and the evil. But I think it failed spectacularly at that. Because playing this game was a miserable experience. It was just a miserable experience. Everything I love about the characters was destroyed and disrespected. And the ending was not worth the long, drawn-out mess of a story. There's a great quote that was said by a Japanese fan. It's a story about right and wrong, written by people who think they're always right. And it fits perfectly. Whoa, you and Happy Console Gamers reviews got me the most hype for the game. I have read the leaks, so playing the game itself turned out to be a shocking, miserable experience. I wanted a Last of Us sequel because of Ellie and Joel, not for the world of The Last of Us. I felt so disconnected after what Abby does in the first 2 hours, and it's insane to me that Naughty Dog forces you to play as her after that, and for so damn long. The problem with this game is that it was made from the head and not the heart. They pay lip service to things like forgiveness is good and hate is bad, but it wasn't actually written or developed that way. So many story choices were done out of a need to be clever or shocking without taking the time to actually earn it, and with a true disregard for why the first game is so beloved. How can anyone be expected to care about Abby and her friends after what they've done? It's not enough to say, well, she lost her dad, so you have to feel sorry for her and empathize because no one cares. If his dumb ass had gotten out of the way when Joel entered the operating room, he'd still be alive. I spent 10 hours or so as Abby, alternating between frustration and boredom as I numbly pushed buttons and thumbsticks, just trying to get through it all to see how it would end. I didn't have a problem exactly with Ellie's final decision, but it bothers me that they took the guitar from her too. Needlessly cruel. I would have loved to see her come back to the empty house and, almost like Paul Newman in Hood, shrug and play the guitar and sing us out. She can't even do that anymore. Jeez. I appreciate the technical glories of this game, but his heart is not whole, and I don't know how many players will praise it in years to come. Total bummer, dude. Wipeout.